So, Natasha, first off, tell us what university you're from and then a little bit about your project.
I'm from Columbia University, the School of International and Public Affairs, and my project is a firm that invests in profitable businesses in Africa and then uses the profits earned to fund education programs for the working poor.
So you're in the financial services business?
We are both investing and also providing education, so it's a combination of the two. We call it building sustainable economies.
So why Africa, and what experience do you or your team have in Africa?
So my interest has always been Africa. I'm studying that at SIPA, but I've also, this past summer, spent 3 months in Ethiopia. And this last month, for the whole month of January, I was in both Rwanda and Ethiopia. And so we're launching in Ethiopia, which is where I have the key experience that is needed. And that's kind of where the whole Africa focus has come from.
So what was it that made you indicated that your interest was always in Africa. What was it that made you say, hey, I'm ready to go for this, I'm ready to create a business and make it work in Africa?
Well, I really think that the way to alleviate poverty is to build economies. And I think we have to do it with local businesses on the ground. We need to help them grow. We need to create jobs. And that's the only way that we're really going to fight poverty. And so when you really look at the world, Africa is the furthest behind on this. Asia is doing pretty well. India is doing well. South America is doing well. They're on that path, but I think Africa still needs to get on the path. So for me, where my interest is really helping, get macroeconomic growth going, Africa, I'm interested in it personally, and it makes the most sense to focus there.
Did you find that there were cultural difficulties to women creating businesses in Africa?
So my experience is mostly in Ethiopia, and actually in Ethiopia you don't have that issue. It's Orthodox Christian predominantly, and it's really interesting. Women wear the latest fashions and they have the same jobs as men. Rural and urban Ethiopia are very different. I'm mostly working in urban Ethiopia, and so the gender issues are much less significant. If you go to rural Ethiopia, it's not the same situation, and the majority of the country is rural. But again, I'm really focusing on urban, and in the urban context, the gender issues are less significant, and you don't see the same issues you might see in a lot of North African countries, for example.
So you talked about investing in businesses and creating businesses basically in Africa. What's the low-hanging fruit?
Well, the key is identifying those strong businesses to invest in is not an easy thing to do. And so what you really need to do is work with the key industry experts on that, and they include private equity firms, impact investors, and some consulting firms that really work with strong businesses. And you really need to work with them to help you identify them, because it's not the kind of thing that you can just hop off the plane and walk around and say, yeah, let's invest in that business. It seems like a growing business. You really need to have people who are experts at it to help you.
Do you expect the private equity firms to be based in Africa as opposed to based in New York, where you go to school right now?
Most of the ones we're working with right now are based in Africa. Actually, all of the ones are based in Africa. You really need to understand the context and the countries in order to make successful investments, particularly private equity, because they tend to own a majority stake. So they really get their hands in the business, and they help it grow, and they help it form. So you have to have local knowledge and staff and things like that.
So has there been any one particular business that really said to you, wow, I really want to know more about this business because I think it can go?
Yes, so we have one firm identified in Ethiopia, and they're a medium-sized firm, and they're really growing, and we are planning to make our first investment in that firm. They're a great prospect. They have a track record of profitability, great growth potential. They have investments from international organizations, which is a great stamp of approval. So that's where we're focusing now, and then future investments will be in other businesses that we vet through kind of key industry experts.
So Natasha, this sounds like a lot more than an academic exercise to you. This sounds like a real deal.
Yeah, this is not an academic exercise at all. It was something that I thought about before I went to Ethiopia, and then I really formed it while I was there for the 3 months. Got back, threw it around to some people that I knew in kind of the microfinance world, the foundation world. I have an advisor who used to run the Citibank Foundation, so kind of got his feel for it. This is my job. I mean, I'm a full-time student, but this is the full-time job, and then I do the other things in my other time.
You go to school for fun. I wanted to ask you about the Global Social Entrepreneurship Competition. Has this been helpful for you?
Yes, for sure. There have been so many networking opportunities that, just from that alone, I have gotten so much out of the competition. I keep meeting people who, particularly when they hear my pitch, they think they might be interested or they know someone who's interested, and those are, I think, going to be the really key connections. And then there's also the possibility of winning funds, which is fantastic, and we'll hear about it in about, 3 hours.
Natasha, all good businesses have an exit strategy. What's yours?
So these investments that we're making, we want them to be long-term because the profits that we earn on them, they fund education programs. And we'd like to see as many people go through these education programs as possible because it benefits, poor people in these countries. So the investments themselves are long-term. I would like to grow this social enterprise to have hundreds of $millions invested. And so I'm not seeing an exit strategy right now. I would love it if we didn't need this kind of a service, but we're not there yet in the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.